All right, welcome to Separation Nation Podcast. Coming to you live. We've got a very special guest this morning, Mr. Alan Vinson, top clothier in this area. We've known him for probably, go back at least 7 years.
Yeah.
We've been working with Alan to make clothes for us. Justin and I both are big boys, and big and juicy and sexy, as he would describe us.
Big six.
And so anyway.
The right clothes can make you look even more sexy.
The right clothes can make you look even better. So anyway, we'll get into that in a little bit with the clothes and why you should buy custom.
Yep.
Because once you go custom, it's hard to ever go back to buying off the rack when something just fits you and is made for your body and your body type and size. And we'll talk about it a little bit. But tell us about you. Tell us about your story, how you got your beginning, because this is pretty much a business podcast. We talk about the separators in life and in business that separate the good from the great, the super achievers from the ordinary. So tell us a little bit about your story, because not only are you a clothier, but you're an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very successful at what you do.
Thank you.
You've been able to do a huge volume. I mean, you're not just making suits for 3 or 4 attorneys, but you're making suits for attorneys and doctors and all types of financial professionals. So anyway, tell us about yourself a little bit.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for that that intro, and it's great to be with you guys because you guys are a couple of my favorite clients, and not just because you both buy a lot of clothes, but because you're good guys, and I appreciate the entrepreneurship and the fellowship that we have, around that, because it ain't easy running a business, that's for sure, and not everybody can do it, and so. It does separate people who maybe should, if they're going to be a clothier, maybe they should work at a business and just work there as opposed to owning their own business, because it's, that's 2 totally different things. But running a business is something that has really honed me as a person, because there's just a lot to it. I had to develop as a salesperson first. I really believe that if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you have to be your own rainmaker first and foremost, and learn how to go out and get business, but then also take care of it, and then the aspects of running a business. And then as you grow, you have to learn how to work with people that can help you and lead them in a way that is to your best advantage. And also, I'm big into the mentoring thing. I really take it seriously if I have a chance to work with a young person. I've had a number of interns come in and, learn from me and learn to run, kind of around a business and learn a little bit about marketing and sales, and then go on to get a great job and text me back and say, hey, that summer I spent with you was just really, I could stand up in front of them in a meeting and talk about Infusionsoft and marketing automation and things that I learned from you, and the whole room's going, what's Infusionsoft? What's marketing automation? But the boss knew what he was talking about, and that set him aside just because of that internship. So that stuff's really, really cool to me. I cut my teeth selling books door to door 80 hours a week as a college student, and those summers that I spent with the Southwestern Advantage company were invaluable. I mean, that was really what shaped me. And there's not a day that goes by that I don't think back on, thank God, as an 18-year-old, I had the guts to go do that.
Right.
Because if, I almost chickened out and didn't do it. Like, the guy was coming to pick me up, and I was right there on the fence. Like, should I go do this, or should I just go home and goof off this summer like everybody else is doing? But something just said, if you could make enough money in 3 months to pay 9 months of your own way through school, I was like, really? You could make enough in 3 months to pay 9 months of your way through school without asking your parents for money and without taking out any debt. And I just I was so focused on that idea, and it propelled me to make about $12,000 in the space of 3 months. And Southwestern does a great job of making sure you're not only working hard making money, but living off as little as you absolutely need to, right, and remitting all the rest back to the company. And at the end of the summer, you get one big check. Well, my check was about $9,300, and I was 18 years old. And I'll never, ever forget what it was like showing my dad that check and saying, you know, I'll take care of school this year. And of course I didn't, you know, that money ran out before December. Like, I spent it all like real fast.
But that's your that creates the foundation for everything you do with the sales. Because what you said, you know, before, an entrepreneur has to be their own rainmaker. Sales is the foundation of everything. I mean, all the processes and the systems are important, but none of that matters if you can't sell.
Nothing happens till somebody sells something.
So that's your background there, sis.
And again, I mean, a common separator too is you look at anybody that's had massive success, no matter where they are today. You know, I mean, they've all started off knocking a door somewhere, selling a product, knocking a door. That's what they cut their teeth on. And, you know, common culture is to put that down.
You know, I have been really intrigued. Well, so if I hear a friend of mine who's a parent telling me that their young kid is doing Cutco knives, or back in the day there was Rainbow vacuum cleaners, or it was Southwestern books, or any of those things. And another one is the Mormon culture. They send boys out in pairs for a whole summer, knocking on doors and preaching and meeting thousands and thousands and thousands of people in the space of a short time. And it hones their communication skills to a level that they can be successful no matter what they want to do. Because at the end of the day, if you're going to be a clothier, an insurance, sales professional, or you're going to be in financial products, if you're going to be a doctor, a lawyer, most of your success is going to be dictated by how well you communicate with people, how you deal with people. And so sales, at the end of the day, is really the most important skill. It's critical. So back to my story, that was my first summer. After about the third summer, I was making $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a summer as a college student, and I was off and running. At that point, I bought myself a Harley. I bought an engagement ring for the woman I wanted to marry at that time, and she was, we were married for 20 years. I graduated with no debt. I never asked my parents for money again after my third summer, and that meant a lot to me. That set me on a course for the rest of my life where it was really kind of impossible to get off track. I was so programmed to stay on track after those summers, and I had recruited people to sell books. Then I went to work for Tom James, which is the large custom clothing company, and they love to get guys who'd sold books, and they still to this day they love people who've done a Cutco or a Southwestern type thing, and they love to get those young people in as clothiers. And so I excelled at that. I was one of the top people at getting new customers, if not the top person in getting new customers, even more so than people who had been there for a long time. And certainly of all the first year, second year people, I was just really good at making enough calls and knocking on enough doors and being persistent enough to get new customers to try me on something. And so I excelled at that. Was one of the top rookies they had, and then 5 years of that, I felt as though my opportunity with that company was limited compared to if I did it for myself, or I was looking at another opportunity in the personnel headhunting arena with the guys that were my mentors at Southwestern, a couple guys I really enjoyed, and so I moved to Jacksonville. And I ultimately spent about 8 to 10 months in the headhunting arena, and just made more money than I'd ever made in that amount of time. Up until that point, it was just like 8 months, and I did very, very well. And
now, where did you live previous to Jacksonville? I didn't realize.
Gainesville.
Okay.
Yeah. So, Tom James set me up in Gainesville. They had not let anybody do this before, but they gave me my own office as a first-year guy because they really wanted me since I had done so well in the selling books thing. And so we started up our own office, started coming up to Valdosta, back in those days, way back in those Gainesville, Valdosta, Tallahassee was my sort of footprint. And then I left, and I went to Jacksonville to do the headhunting thing, and it was great, but then all of a sudden the economy changed, and, they didn't have any jobs to go around anymore, and ultimately were about to lay me off. In fact, they did basically tell me that the writing was on the wall and they had to let me go. We were in Jacksonville, and we had spent the first 7 months in an apartment. Then we found a house. So, man, I'll tell you, this story is just like, it's funny to tell this, but like, I haven't told too many people this aspect of the story. But we were closing on our house, and we bought this nice big house in Mandarin, which is a nice area of Jacksonville. And my wife was so happy. And I remember at lunch that day, I lost my job. Basically, they said, lost your job, and we had just closed on the house. And it was, it was literally my first day coming home from work, to that house. And I opened the door, and she's like vacuuming, and she's got a smile on her face, and you can tell she's just been running around the house, like fixing it all day. And I was like, I don't know, how I kind of held it together, at that time, but I was scared shitless. I mean, I was just scared shitless, like what, I just lost my job. But I knew that there was one thing I definitely was good at, and that was selling clothes, and knocking on doors and selling clothes. After I talked to a couple people, they encouraged me and said, just do it, just start. And I literally went to like Office Depot and got a receipt book, started calling a couple suppliers and a couple old guys that I knew, back at Tom James who'd gone out on their own. I got some fabrics, and I just started calling, I just started calling attorneys in Jacksonville. And then I had a few clients and a few more. And, I think month 2, I had $30,000 or $40,000 in revenue,
Wow.
in month 2, and I was actually at that point, I realized how confident I felt, and how good I felt like my destiny was in my own hands, again, and like nobody can take this away from me. This is mine, and I can do this. And and I felt so confident, I bought myself a Tahoe, like a brand new Tahoe, like the 3rd month, because I was driving like a Toyota Camry at the time, but I wanted to have a slightly more impressive vehicle, it's my own, company or whatever. And so I was off and running. I mean, from that day forward, I never looked back, and that was 18 years ago. So
you never slowed down. I mean,
I
you
can't.
went back to what you knew, though.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the thing, again, the sales background that you had. Once you learn how to sell, once you learn how to close, once you learn how to talk to people, that is an invaluable tool that nobody can take away from you.
Mm-hmm.
It's like what you said. You made a statement earlier that hit me hard, because I've seen this many times. Even a doctor. How many people go to doctors that have absolutely no bedside manner, does not know how to talk to people? Great doctors, but you never want to go back, because they don't know how to communicate with you. If I've got somebody giving me bad news or good news or whatever, I want them to be able to communicate it in a way that I feel like they care, or they're concerned, or at least it moves them in some, some sense. And that's, that's why it's so important, whatever field you plan to be in, get some kind of sales training,
Couldn't agree more.
In life. And how many people tell us, I want a job. I know you guys are doing good. You look successful. I see the big things you're doing. I don't want to be in sales. And I believe that's one of the biggest hang-ups out there for people. Mm-hmm. And so sales saved you. You had the background with selling books. You had background with Tom James. You went into a totally different career, a headhunting career. Mm-hmm. And that fell apart. Just bought a new house. Everything you just said fell apart. So all you could do is pick up your tool that you already knew. Because my background's similar. I got out of what we do. Justin, we talked about my story some on the podcast in the past, but I found myself kind of in a similar situation where I had to have a job. All I knew was how to sell insurance, and fell right back into it. Not necessarily something that I was really wanting to do. It's just all I knew how to do.
Right.
And it's worked out great for me, just as the clothes have worked out great for you. So so here you are, you successful, making good money. Still got your house, still got your family, got a new Tahoe. So where do you go from there?
Well, the great thing about sales is it's the double-edged sword, of course. Like, you have to do a good job. When you do a good job, then you can get referrals. Mm-hmm. And so I was also very, very good at getting referrals and finding strategies to get people to introduce me to other people and so forth. So that really accelerates your growth if you're working, through your network, and you develop an ability to network through people that you know and leverage the success you've had to get more success, because more success begets more success. And that's one of the beauties of working hard, is that you're making things happen, and then you're kind of creating your own luck. And I was fortunate enough to really take a lot of business away from my old company, Tom James. And I think, today, as I, am approaching 50 years old, I can't slow down, but I can direct myself in a different area. And I think that area is probably more in the direction of now teaching young clothiers how to work independently on our platform, perhaps a little bit like you guys have independent insurance agents who, work through your agency to fulfill the promises and have the right products and services available to them, but they're kind of in business for themselves, aren't they?
Right,
yeah.
Absolutely.
And so that's kind of where I feel like I'm going with the clothing business. And I believe that more and more men are also in need of good advice. As they, dressing up is becoming a little more important again, certainly to the millennial generation. I think they, want to wear nice clothes. They want to wear nice things. They want to, do something that they enjoy. So being a clothier is now a very popular side hustle, side gig. And it's a side gig that a young person who might be listening to this podcast, who's got a little bit of a sense of style and is a hard worker and is really, really hungry and wants to learn how to sell, they could learn to sell any product, using any product as a vehicle. But clothing just happens to be one that is kind of wrapped together with your opinion. In other words, you guys kind of like me to come up here and show you the fabrics I think are cool, the things that I think would fit with your wardrobe. And so, you kind of get used to the opinion of someone you trust. Mm. And so it's hard to commoditize that, whereas, so young people have an opportunity, I feel, in maybe entering the clothing business as a part-time thing, to do far better working 10 or 15 hours a week than they could working at $10 or $12 an hour, because it's more outcome-based. If they get good at it, they could make $1,000 in 15 minutes and then go back to being a college student. So it's not about like how many hours they work, it's about what they put into the hours, and I believe it's a great vehicle. So that's kind of the direction I'm heading with my business, is that I've got more clients than I know what to do with. Sometimes it's hard to get to everybody, but I want to mentor young people to do a good job of being a clothier and maybe create a vehicle for themselves, especially if they have contacts and can leverage the contacts of their own family, or their dad, their uncle, their dad's golf buddies, and start to kind of build a network, do a good job in one or two places so that they can get some referrals, and then all of a sudden, 10 or 12 clients, and they could make, the equivalent income of people getting out of college, and making $40,000 or $50,000 a year, but doing that kind of part-time, so and that's a realistic roadmap I've kind of developed, and I've run the numbers, and it's just a great program for a young person. So that's really kind of what I'm working on. I believe that today's young people, as my daughter got to age 20, I think something hit me, because I had one child doing everything right and one child kind of just trying to find her way, and didn't, college wasn't the thing, and it really started to hit me. I was so lucky that I had the guts to go sell books. I was so lucky to get the opportunity in the first place, right? I mean, first of all, you have to have an opportunity. Then you've got to have the guts to take it and do it. But I was happy that the opportunity came my way. And I think that if I can provide an opportunity for people who are about that 18, 19, 20-year-old age and just need a track to run on, they need to find like a place to apply themselves, some place that they can really dig in, and the rewards are essentially unlimited. I think there's a great opportunity there for college students. So, that's sort of the direction I'm going with, spreading out my influence in the clothing business and our brand, in a sense, by, letting some other people have an opportunity like I had.
Yeah, well, you hear a lot of people, especially parents, say, I want to be able to for my kids to go to school without having to worry about a job or having to just be able to concentrate on their studies. But a lot of times, that taught you character. I mean, what you said, I want to be able to pay my own way.
Right.
Your parents did something right for you to have that mentality. And we're not robbing, I was the same way. I had to work my way through school because my parents they couldn't pay my way if they wanted to. And so for me, what education I have, I've dropped out of college 3 times, finally never went back. But those 3 times when I was there, it was always on my dime. Always, I worked construction or I worked, whatever side job I could find.
Right.
But it taught me something. It created the person I am today. I couldn't just go through 4 years of college, then wake up and I'm in the real world. I'd been in the real world the whole entire time.
Right. Right.
So
it does. I mean, real world experience is invaluable, especially if it forces you to develop as a salesperson, develop that, that ability to deal with people. Because I am noticing a lot of, young people, as I've started to let them come into my business, either part-time or full-time, and, as an intern and so forth, that they do struggle. They struggle with things like eye contact, handshake, staying engaged and looking like they're paying attention. They may be paying attention, but they don't look like they're paying attention. And, they lack some polish, some of those things, whether it's going out on the mission field and knocking on doors and spreading the gospel, or whether it's, knocking on doors to sell knives or books, it's character building. It's very character building. And, I don't think people realize how much it takes and how much sticking to something it takes to run a business. And that's a whole nother, avenue. I know you guys, talk about that on some of the podcasts.
One thing that, Justin and I, we talk about this all the time because we've had, we've trained recruited and trained so many sales professionals over several years. But one thing that's unique about your story, well, not necessarily unique, but one thing that just hits me real hard about your story, which is the same as Justin and I, you made the comment that at age 50 or approaching 50, now you're kind of shifting your focus to training and teaching people, actually building a team, building a platform that people can learn. Same thing that we've done and are continuing to do. But you didn't start with that. You started with the foundation, and you worked out of necessity. You honed your skills, and you got to a point where now you have something to offer. Justin and I, we worked for years. We talk about it in several of the podcasts where, we didn't try to build a team. We didn't try to build a company. Didn't try to build a platform for several years. The first couple of years, we worked out of our cars, just driving all over the state. And then, actually with our story, we never really tried to recruit. People just started coming to us, and we realized, hey, we can't keep turning people away. We've got to start helping people. This career that's been so good to us, let's share it. Let's not be selfish, and let's teach other people how to do what we've done. But we put in the grunt work.
Right.
And I think one thing I see a lot, especially with the younger generation, they don't want to put in the grunt work.
Right.
They just want to arrive. They just want to be there. They want to have nice clothes, a nice car. They want to have the big office, but they don't want to sell out of their car. They don't want to do the grunt work.
Right.
But we all know how necessary that is.
And this is the thing with concept we talk a lot about on here, but be to do to have, which is a philosophy that personally I learned from Zig Ziglar and listening to him and him being a mentor in my life. But everybody wants the have part, but they want to skip the be, and they especially want to skip that do part. You know what I'm saying? And you cannot avoid the process. I mean, wherever you get off the train in life, you say, well, I'm sick of this shit, and I'm, you get pissed off and you go do something else. You find, wherever you get off that train, you're going to circle in the desert for a number of years, but you end up having to get right back on that train, like John getting out of the insurance business. Well, what happens? The universe pulls him back. He ends up right back at it, 'cause that's what he was supposed to be doing. And he realized, not that he was trying to skip a process, but no matter what you do, if you're trying to skip the process, if it gets too hard and you say, I want to go back and, be a salaried employee and take things easy and all that. I was talking to a guy the other day, you know, and we was talking about how hard the situation is and what he's going through, you know, and I just said, welcome to adulting, you know, and at the end of the day, if you want to get paid good, you want to make a lot of money, you want to move up and continue to move up in the echelons of this career, you're going to have to take the good with the bad. You're going to have to learn how to manage the things that you don't like about the business, celebrate the things you love, and you got to just keep moving forward. But that's the fact of life, is wherever we exit the plan for our life and get off because, you know, we don't like what we're having to do, or we're not liking the process that's never fun, you know, you get pulled right back to it.
You know, you mentioned Zig Ziglar, and I think that, you know, back in the days when I sold books door to door, you know, you had a cassette tape in your car, you know, and I just had the whole See You at the Top, and I had all his series, and I just kept them in there all summer long, and they were just going and going in my head. And it was just, you know, phenomenal. So I think that that's certainly one thing for people to take away from this podcast, is that, you know, you have an internal dialogue going on in your head all the time telling you either you can do it or you can't do it, or maybe I can't do this, or I definitely can do this, you know, no matter what. And so it really helps to have some of those tools going on, you know, with positive affirmations. The power of positive affirmations got me through so many things. I read a book called What to Say When You Talk to Yourself that was really a phenomenal book for me to read. I read The Greatest Salesman in the World. I read one of the scrolls almost every day. So I'd sit down under a tree to have like my sandwich, and I allowed myself 30 minutes, and I would eat my sandwich and read a scroll, you know, and I just filled my head with that stuff, you know, at a young age, and it just stays with you. And that's what's, you know, to program yourself. And I really, really have a heart for kids that are, you know, right at that 18, 19, 20-year-old age, because they could kind of, you know, if they can just find some good track to run on and start to, you know, listen to good podcasts, listen to good audio tapes, listen to good old stuff. I mean, Zig Ziglar is the best. He takes this sales thing that people are scared about and makes it really fun, and in a way almost gamifies the whole sales career. And really, I think one of the things that, you know, I think when I was first starting as a salesman, you know, it still had a stigma of being like, oh, you're a salesman, you know, and you thought of a used car, you know, salesman with an ugly checkered jacket or whatever, and, you know, and a cheesy guy who had a career that was not very respectable, you know. And listening to Zig Ziglar, I realized that sales is really the most respectable career that a person can have.
Well, everything's sales anyhow. Anybody that says they're not in sales is just psyching themselves out. If you work a job and got to punch a clock and got 4 bosses over you, every day you got to go do your job and sell that boss on the fact that you can go in and adequately do that job. Everything's sales. You know, everything in life that you want is a sale, and everything you get is a commission. And that's just a fact of the matter. Anything else, you're living in a fairy tale land. And so, but I will say this too, one thing that I love about what you're doing now is, because you've been successful all these years, but now you're really moving into what, you know, we talk about the difference and the separation between success and significance. And now you're beginning to turn your attention towards a demographic that needs it worse than anything, because a lot of these teenagers have been pumped and primed and preached to, you know, like a hamster in the wheel. You gotta graduate high school and go straight to college. You gotta get a degree. If you don't, you know, really, I mean, I remember the way I was made to feel like by high school teachers, that wasn't where you was headed, and I knew I wasn't. I mean, you just was a POS, you know. I mean, you was just a shitty person. You wasn't a contribution to society. If you had any brains and lick of sense at all, you was going to college. And so a lot of these kids, there's an internal struggle, and I talked to enough to know this, because deep down they know that's not for them. There's nothing more daunting than them than thinking about going and getting some degree that deep down they know is not going to net out for them. And now there's more and more entrepreneurial people with the internet and podcasts and everything being what it is. They're hearing more and more talk, and they're hearing more and more through the wavelengths and vibrations of, you know, people that are now preaching you don't have to do that. But then in their own incubation, their own incubator, you know, home, family, school, they're just pounded and pounded with you got to go to school, you take out school loans and rack all this debt, do whatever it takes. But they have this internal struggle, but a lot of them don't know what avenue, and they don't have a mentor, and they don't have somebody to say, listen, it's okay. You don't have to go to college. You can make a ton of money. Matter of fact, you can probably make more money and be happier and skip all that stuff being taught by somebody that's never built nothing in their life, some professor, and move into success. And so what you're doing is becoming significant, because now what you're doing is going viral, and you're helping more and more people, who will in turn help more and more people. So just like the rest of us, people think you're in the clothing business, but you're in the people business.
I am. That's absolutely right. And clothing is the vehicle. And something you said really just kind of made me think, because, if I had to give back either my diploma or my book selling experience and just take that off, wipe that away, I would give back my diploma in a second, because I happened to do them concurrently. In other words, I was selling books in the summers while I was going to college, so I kind of finished both things at the same time. But I will say this, just like some of the most successful college students, they go in the military for 4 years, and then they come back and their mind is right for the educational, part that is also important. If they want to become a doctor, a lawyer, or something that requires a degree, they got to go to college. But my daughter was not ready for college, I'll tell you that, when she graduated from high school. Maybe she will be at some point in the next few years, but I do think that had I sold books and done that and then gone to college, I would have been a better college student. And because everything I've done since then has helped me. And the education that I got, in the classroom was nothing compared to the education I got knocking on doors.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. We need doctors, we need attorneys, we need these people that you got to have a 4, 6, 8 year degree to do what they do. But how many broke attorneys do you know? They're all over town, because they've got the education, but they don't know how to market and sell themselves. Maybe you could win a court case, but if we don't know that, because the education is there, but the foundation still that they need is selling. So now let's talk about the other aspect of what you do. So building a business, building a clientele, the way you've done it. I mean, you got people like Justin and I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast. I wear custom suits, custom coats, because I've got a 18-inch neck and a 34-inch waist. If I go to Joseph A. Banks and buy an 18-inch neck shirt, it's going to be like a blouse on me, I've done it before. I mean, so if I buy a shirt off the rack, I'll never be able to button the top button if it fits me in the body, and I got long knuckle-dragging arms and short legs. I'm just kind of built funny. And so for me, the only way to look neat and to look professional and to look like I care about my appearance, and those are the things people are looking for. When I sit down with a new client, when they look at my shoes, they look at my belt, they look at my watch, they look at, does he look neat?
And they make a lot of judgment calls in those first 30 seconds.
Yeah. And a lot of times before I ever even speak, they've made a decision,
about your competence.
Right, absolutely. And another thing, about me is I hate to shop. I would almost rather go to the dentist than go to a mall. And so the great thing about working with you is, you or one of the gentlemen that works for you will come to the office. You already know what I have, because I've got a tendency to buy the same thing. I'll buy 15 blue shirts, 10 blue. Every sports coat I've got's got some blue in it. Somebody like you can come say, well, John, why don't you look at this gray? It's almost like a blue, but, and kind of stretch a little bit, but know my taste and all. And so I think that's because our time is very important. It's very valuable. I can do more in, 35, 45 minutes with you, whether I want to go through the pain of picking out buttonhole colors or picking out a lining. If I'm in a hurry, I'm like, well, I like that. You pick out the rest, I trust you because you know me.
Yep.
I'm not a televangelist. I'm a, you know what I need, and I want to have some personality, dress fun, but at the same time be professional.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I was telling you before we started the podcast, You know, when I first got into insurance sales, my background was construction. I mean, we wore blue jeans and work boots every day. So when I got hired to my first job in insurance sales, I had to get some clothes. You know,
hang that Carhartt jacket up. Didn't
I had to hang the Carhartt up. I still pull it out every once in a while when I want to feel like a lumberjack. But I hung it up, and I went to, I think it was Men's Warehouse or something. I was living in Savannah, and I went in and I looked at different things I liked. I looked at, you know, all these different colored shirts, and I was trying to put some stuff together. And then I had a older gentleman come to me, and I could tell he had been in the clothing business for years and years. And he said, "What are you shopping for?" He thought I had a wedding to go to or a court date or something.
Right,
you know?
right.
And because of the way I was dressed and what I was looking at, I said, "Listen, I just got a job selling insurance. The dress code is basically, you know, I got a business professional." He said, "Well, let's put all that back that you've been looking at." And I had this nice lavender shirt, and I was putting it all together. And he says, "You need a navy blue sports coat. I've got this one. It's got like silver buttons on it. You can wear it with black shoes. You can wear it with brown shoes. Let's get you a white shirt and a blue shirt, and let's get you some gray pants. Let's get you some tan pants, you know, and you can wear that sports coat every day. Nobody will ever know it. Take it off in between appointments, hang it up in your car. Don't wrinkle it all up, and take care of it. And this will be your entire wardrobe for the week." He said, "You can wear these pants 4, 5, 6 times before you have them pressed, you know, and just, if you're still in the business 6 months from now, come back and I'll sell you some suits. But make it work on the, you know, the small." So what's your advice for somebody?
Great advice. That's tremendous advice.
Because we see that a lot. People,
and you know, the right advice saves you a lot of time.
Oh, yeah.
And it makes all the difference in the world. So, you know, the advice that we give is, I think, as valuable as the clothing, if not more, and it at least directs people to what they should and shouldn't spend money on, and which is what you shouldn't spend money on is you know, maybe more important, you know, than as important as what you should. And you know, we try to make sure that we're pointing people in the right direction. You know, guys like you who've gotten to a point where you can get past the basics and now buy clothes for fun, you know, fun that are, you know, still goes with what you have and so forth. And, you know, then the advice changes. But yeah, it's very important to, you know, to get good advice, to give good advice. At the end of the day, it's, you know, not any more expensive, if not, you know, save you money in the long run. Zig Ziglar used to talk about buying quality versus quantity, and how in the end the good costs less because you don't have to replace it as often and things like that. The other thing, you know, to me, and this is something I don't know that a lot of people realize, that the average businessman is going to spend more money on his wardrobe throughout the course of his career than probably he will with his doctor or his lawyer, you know, because you have clothing, you know, needs every year, you know, kind of going through. So to spend that money, you know, wisely and do it with someone's help, I think makes a lot of sense. You know, I've said this before, but I think, you know, a businessman, a legit businessman, not having a clothier is like a guy not having a doctor or a lawyer or an accountant. You know, I mean, you should have a clothier if you're a serious businessman. And it doesn't actually cost more. In the end, it probably will save you money, and you can get good advice like that and make the most out of a little bit until you can, you know, add to it and so forth.
And I'd say, I mean, having a good clothier will make you money. And I watched it. There's the new Deion Sanders Primetime, baby. New Deion Sanders special that come out. I don't know if y'all have caught it. You need to look it up. I forget. It's one of the
30 for 30.
ESPNs or what. Well, it ain't 30 for 30, but it's another thing like that. So it's an hour special, and it's great. But anyway, in that Deion Primetime, he's talking about the way he dressed on it, and here's what he said. He said, "If you look good, you feel good. And if you feel good, you play good." Or we could say perform in business. You play good. And if you play good, baby, they pay good. You know.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And that's what he said. But that's the truth. And so, you know, there is nothing. I mean, I have been known to, when I didn't have money, to go spend ridiculous money on something to get my mind right to help me go make more money. Okay? I bought a watch one time. John Tanner called me and said, why in the hell right now are you buying that watch? And I said, because that's how I am, baby. I said, because if things ain't going right, I'm just going to go hit it in the face to make it go right, to jack myself up. You know what I'm saying? And that's just how I am. When I got into the insurance business, I had right at $800 left on one credit card. I had everything maxed out to the hilt. You know, I got a $70,000 second mortgage hacked. I mean, I'm loaded, but I had about $700 right at $800 worth of space. I loaded my ass up and went to Steele's Jewelry.
Oh Lord!
And I bought almost the most expensive Mont Blanc pen in the case because I knew I would feel better and go write more business with a Mont Blanc than I would this big, you know. And I was picking before we got started because John's got his nice, you know, Mont Blanc pen over there. I guess I'm going to have to whip mine back out. Things made me millions of dollars. But, you know, that's the truth. When you look good, you feel good. When you feel good, you play good or perform good. And when you play good, you get paid good. And I mean, that's my mentality. Now, it may not work that way for everybody. Dave Ramsey isn't going to tell you to go do that. But I went and maxed out my last credit card with a Mont Blanc. But now that thing's made me millions of dollars. Yeah. And so, you know, part of that is you just got to know yourself. But, man, I would wear a sports coat. I'd wear a suit in the middle of the summertime sitting on a porch that looked like it was about to fall in on a single-wide trailer writing insurance business. I dressed like that year-round, whether it was cold or not, for years. Now, there was a time I become confident enough that I would just go out with just a button-down shirt, but always at least that, nice pair of slacks, nice pair of shoes. But during a time in my life when I didn't feel 100% sure about myself in this business mentally, and I was a little timid, there was something about when I looked good and I put that coat on. This is the only way I can describe it. It's like putting on a coat of armor. And I still to this day, I mean, if I got to go handle something, sure enough, even if it don't require a suit, I'm going to put a suit on. You know, one of my kids was getting mistreated by a school officer and a principal in a public school a year ago. I didn't have a suit on that day. But now I was pissed off. I was fit to go handle some business. Everybody's going to click their heels and say, yes, sir, when I got done that meeting. I went home, put on 3 pieces just to walk in that school because I knew it was going to make me more aggressive, and I wanted to be aggressive. You know what I'm saying? But that's what a lot of people don't realize. I mean, when you get your suit game, when you get your clothing together, man, it changes your mentality. If you walked out on the football field to go play NFL football in a little old midget football outfit, you're going to look ridiculous, feel ridiculous, but now you go out there and you're a contender and you got on the same gear alongside everybody else, baby, you're going to go in there with a different mindset and you're going to be a contender. And that's what Justin Young thinks, at least. Great clothing and the correct clothing, you know, and a good pair of Italian leather shoes with a leather sole, and you're not walking around here with rubber click-clacking from Steve Madden, you know, while you're trying to wear your clothes. You know, no offense, Steve Madden. Don't nobody sue me with your plastic shoes, you know. But anyhow,
max your credit cards out with some Steve Maddens.
But listen, some people do need to stretch themselves. So some of you business people, if you're watching this podcast or listening even, you know, and you've been in sales, you may say, well, I ain't got the money. I'm not on, this is what I hear some of our guys say, well, I ain't on your level yet. I ain't on that level. Well, listen, if you want to get on whatever my level is, if you want to get on the next level for yourself personally, you got to dress like it. If you want great things, you got to make preparation. You'll never have provision if you don't get a vision and step out and move forward and create a space. If you want a horse, you got to build a barn. Nobody has a baby and then creates the nursery. You got to prepare first. You have the nursery ready before the baby comes. You're going to have to invest in yourself before you even think you're ready to invest in yourself if you want to have what you wish to have. Would you agree?
I would agree. I think that clothing is how you market yourself, and it is how you project to the world around you your competence.
Your brand.
Yeah, your brand, your personal brand. We're in a day and age of branding where, you know, everybody's got their own Instagram and or, you know, mechanisms to try to reach out through, whether it's LinkedIn or whatever. If you don't pay a little bit of money to get a professional photograph for your LinkedIn profile, I mean, that's just stupid, you know, to you know, have one that it has been professionally taken or what have you. I think, you know, people don't invest sometimes in the racehorse that they are. You know, you are a thoroughbred racehorse, and you need to have the right kind of clothing. You need to have the right kind of food and drink and rest, and all those things are important. And then what you put into your mind, I think, is very, very important as well. Positive versus negative. Things that are in alignment, whether it's the Bible, whether it's meditation, whether it's consuming books and things on tape. I mean, all that stuff has come into play throughout my life to program me for success.
Well, it's psychological. And to Justin's end, I kind of laugh at it, but it's true. Psychologically speaking, whether it's a nice pen or like with me, I wore that. I still got a blue sports coat on. It's kind of always been my go-to. I wore that thing out. I mean, I wore it, but I looked good. If you look good, you feel good. Even there's days I come into office and I don't really have to see anyone. I'm gonna be on the phone all day, or I'm gonna be doing paperwork all day, or planning, or something. And I'll get up and I don't feel like even taking charge of the day. And then I know, like one day last week, I come in, had a suit on, looked good, felt good. I didn't feel good when I left the house, but after I dressed it up, I felt great, and I got in, and my assistant asked, "Do you got appointments today?" No. But I just wanted that mindset. I wanted to figure, if I go out to lunch, who's going to see me? It's all important. So,
and you men too out there, you got to realize your woman likes you in a suit. This lingerie. This right here is lingerie for men. Am I correct? Yeah. A man taking care of himself, smelling good, looking good, wearing a nice suit. That's like a woman walking in with the greatest Fredericks of Hollywood lingerie on ever. So some of you single men, you want to throw that right bait out there and attract somebody, y'all need to call Alan Vinson, because we're at a point now, Alan, we've been working on a design. I got a new sports coat design coming out. It's actually got 4 arms instead of 2 in the coat, because I'm so damn sexy. I need a separate set of arms just to touch myself. What you say? Go say man to my preaching, Alan.
Can you strike that out of the podcast?
Somebody better say man to my preaching up in here. I'm about to take up an offering on that one.
Amen.
All right, there you go. Y'all get back serious now.
It really does, make a difference, and I see it all the time. Because some people who come in, they're not really into clothes, but some event is bringing them in, and when they get those clothes on, you can see a difference and they want more. They're, like I've seen wives look at their husband going, look at him. He's like strutting around now. Like he wears suits all the time, and it just changes their demeanor, changes their outlook. It just, they feel, stronger, better version of them, like a stronger, better version of themselves.
What's the commercial? It's one of the financial firms that actually brought a DJ in, cut his hair, put a suit on him, put him in front of 2 people looking for a financial professional, and they hired him, all 100% based on his appearance, with no background, no knowledge, but all based on his appearance.
Yeah. Well, that's another Zig Ziglarism, if I'm not mistaken, Justin. Correct me if I'm wrong. This didn't come from Zig. I think it did. You can act your way into proper thinking, but you can't think your way into proper acting. And I think clothing plays a part in that. Putting the day you didn't feel like being, really engaged, but you put on a suit and you came in and just were kind of probably going through the motions up to a certain point, and then all of a sudden you were into it, and having the right clothes on, I think, makes a big difference. So we advise people on, not necessarily having a closet full of stuff, that's but having things that, together, it only takes a few things to have a cohesive wardrobe, so you have some options, but the clothes look good on you. They're not doing you a disservice by, taking away from, what looks to be your competence, because, you look like an amputee because your sleeves, here or whatever, or, your pants are too long or too loose or too baggy or what have you, or you forgot to take the label off the arm of the jacket.
Yeah, you see that, yeah. And that's just, things people have to learn, but if you've got a good clothier, or even if you're buying off the rack, if you've got a good sales professional, they're going to remove those things for you. They're going to get the suit or the sports coat ready for you. One thing that annoys me is you see people, and I've always heard this and I always practice it, never button your bottom button on a sports coat. And just little stuff like that I had to learn. You know, people had to teach me. What are some other things? You know, there's everybody laughs at the tie being too short or too long.
Yeah.
You know?
Pants breaking at the right place on your shoe. A lot of times, and it's like anything else in life, but you can have the right stuff on and have the small details wrong and throw the whole thing off. And you don't have people think you got to go spend all these thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, and they have a misconception about custom clothing. And the fact of the matter is, like John was telling his story, what the guy told him to buy. I mean, you can start. You just need meaningful, intentional items, just a few items. I mean, you can have one great pair of shoes, quality shoes, and wear the things a decade and go get them resold if you need to. You know, it's not about having this massive, but you can look great, look professional, but you need to know the small details. You know, and I mean, we went to dinner Sunday, and or 2 Sundays ago, and I'm sitting there, and this guy's walking in, and he's bought a coat off the rack, and he's still got the little X, on the vents, the back vents of his coat where it's sewn together, And normally, if I don't even know people, that bothers me so bad. I walk up to him. I went up to him. I brushed up my arm and said, "Brother, how you doing?" He said, "Good, man." I said, "Listen, let me help you." I said, and I took my keys out, and I said, "So what you doing?" I said, "I'm finna cut. Your vents are supposed to be cut. That little X ain't supposed to be back there. Let me help you look sharp." And most time they appreciate it. Sometimes I get pissed off, but I mean, if you got a big booger in your nose, I'm not going to leave it there. That thing might fly out on me. You know what I'm saying? So,
yeah. Well, I think the biggest thing is having clothes that fit, and whether it's buying new clothes that are custom made or, having someone who's in the tailoring alteration business look at what you have and how it could be tuned up a little bit, that's worth the investment too. I think having a tailor that knows you by name is a very, very good thing for a businessman. I mean, it's critical that when you need something done or you have some big thing coming up in your life, that you can count on somebody to help you look good for that event and have it done on time. So.
Well, it's like, and the price is a big misconception, because I can easily spend more money for a sports coat or a suit off the rack that doesn't fit, that's not made for me, than something custom. I mean, talk about quality, because you hear, you got choices in different fabrics, different thicknesses. You got the Super 100s, Super 120s, and different things like that. Where does that play in? And also, one thing with me, we live in South Georgia where it can get 100+ degrees. So I may not want the thickest fabric. I may not want the heaviest fabric. I mean, what's your opinion on that, and how does that fit into necessarily the climate or the environment where we live?
Well, you're right. We're down here in a climate. Our office is based out of Jacksonville, so most of the people that I call on live in South Georgia and Florida, and so we don't work with a lot of heavy fabrics right off the bat. We work with what I call, year-round weight fabrics, or even tropical weight fabrics that people seem to enjoy. When you talk about quality, it's hard if you're going by brands. And the reason people trust a brand is because they've had good luck with it, or they've heard that that's a good brand. That may or may not be true, because if like Brooks Brothers at one point was a great brand, and then they kind of lost their way a little bit, and people didn't like the clothes. They just weren't that well made. There was a period of time, and I don't really keep up with all that now. I don't spend a lot of time studying what my competitors do, but I know that a brand can be a really expensive brand could actually not be that well made. I've seen some $800-900 Hugo Boss suits that look like they were made out of, paper, and they almost like made a noise when you would like crumple them a little bit, like there was almost like there was cardboard or paper inside the construction. So really it comes down to full canvas, half canvas, or fused clothing. Those are the 3 levels of construction, with full canvas being really the best, and arguably the best as far as just quality and how difficult it is to make it, and the longevity of the clothing over the time with being dry cleaned and so forth, because there is no adhesive in the construction. Then half canvas has become really, really popular to create a little bit lighter weight coat, but still have the benefits of the shoulders and chest being full canvas. So you get the benefit of full canvas and half canvas is that the coat actually molds to your body over time as opposed to just staying the same shape, for the entire. So if you get like a fuse suit, even if you alter it to kind of contour the body a little bit better, it'll always kind of have that shape. And it doesn't actually mold to the body like a good shoe or a glove, like a baseball glove that you've just been using and oil in it and stuff. And, a full canvas or a half canvas suit is going to soften and shape around the body, which is huge. That's why I can see a custom suit, across the street. I can tell that guy's got a custom suit on because of the way it molds. Then after that, it's just a question of what fabric you use to make the suit out of. And what's unique about what we do, if I could put in a little plug for us, is that whether you're buying an $800-900 suit or whether you're buying an $8,000 or $9,000 suit, I don't, put more bells and whistles or more quality into the $8,000 or $9,000 suit. On the contrary, every bell and whistle, every little feature, and all of the better construction is in that opening price point suit. Is it not as good as the other one? Well, from a technical standpoint and construction standpoint, it's every bit as good as the $8,000 or $9,000 suit. Now, the fabric is not as rare and expensive and doesn't have a story behind it like, some mill in Italy that has the babbling brook perfect water and the best climate for sheep, and the sheep eat the best grass on the planet, and then so that wool. So those wools, things like vicuña, which are like off an animal that's super. If you want a vicuña sport coat, it's a $5,000 sport coat. Either way you slice it. But like anything else,
I like bougie sheep. I didn't know sheep could be so bougie.
Oh, they're super bougie.
Give me the bougie sheep.
We can talk about that. But Super 100s and Super 120s and Super 130s and 50s and 60s and Super 200s is actually a measure of the wool in its raw form. So when you cut the bougie sheep, when you shear the wool off the bougie sheep, the bougie ones, the fabric or the actual raw wool is finer and longer. And so that's more desirable from a manufacturing standpoint. Smaller, thinner, finer, longer strands that a mill can do more with. So it's really a measure of the finished the raw materials rather than the finished product. A Super 150s could be milled in such a way that it's for the suiting, in the tailors and the garment district in Savile Row, and that climate is, they've got a winter weight Super 150, so it'll be super thick. But I also carry, and you've seen some Super 150s that's really, really light and tropical weight. It really goes back to, the raw materials. So I would say this, at our opening price points, you're getting a kind of a generic fabric. It's a generic equivalent of a really expensive fabric, actually. So just like generic drugs cost you a little bit less, if you work with some generic fabrics, like this is just a good Super 120s navy wool that we're going to make a suit from for $850, whereas this one that kind of looks and feels the same is $1,800. It's really just a function of what the fabric costs. And a good clothier can guide you through that. I would never try to sell a guy just starting out trying to build his wardrobe. I would never break out the $1,800 fabric. I'd already be looking at the, what's the opening price point stuff we have? Why don't we build around this? A navy suit, get an extra pair of pants, get a couple white shirts, couple blue shirts, and that way you can wear the suit. You can wear the, get a tan pant and a gray pant, just, and then you got a lot of clothes, just with that. So.
And you look good and you feel good about yourself.
That's the important part.
Right. And because one thing too, especially in sales and being professional, you want to stand out, but not too much, So
you guys like my burgundy shoes?
Yeah. Very nice. Real nice.
My burgundy suit and burgundy shoes. I might be standing out a little too much today. I don't know.
Well, I got Eastern Diamondback skin belt on, so
there you go. There you go. Like anything else, as if you really work hard and you are successful, then you enjoy the fruits of your labor, and you get to, try some better wine. You get to try a nicer cigar. You get to drive a better car.
Well, thank you for this, by the way. Yeah. Alan brought us some great wine from a very niche winery in Napa.
I thought I hid that in my office before he
No,
got here.
we're sharing this big boy.
I had to make sure he was aware of it. So
We'll do a podcast on wine here before long.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, I mean, you guys both have given me some great wine recommendations. This one is a pretty neat story, Progeny Vineyard, and they don't even want people to know too much that it's even out there. So so enjoy that and let me know what you think.
Definitely, we appreciate it.
We need to do, and thanks again for coming, being a guest. We need to do this again soon and actually pick out. And let's go through the process of bringing in the fabrics, bringing in the swatches, picking out the lining, the entire deal. But let's do it in the evening.
Yeah.
And we'll have a glass of wine.
That'd be great.
Try not to spill it on you.
That would be great. I think a lot of people, and I think that a lot, is that, I'll be in the shop and we've got some good scotch there, we've got some good wines, and every once in a while, the appointment happens at that hour where it's nice to break out something to drink, and and the process is really pretty fun. It's a totally different paradigm from going to a store and going shopping and looking for something and hoping it fits, and if it doesn't, then you got to run around and deal with alterations, and they give you a price for the suit and you didn't know it was $300 extra to get it altered to actually fit you. It's just a nightmare when you can just sit down with somebody once, twice, 3, 4 times a year, however often you want, and make a plan and think strategically about your wardrobe and have kind of a guided experience,
That's the way to do it.
It's just like we got a black tie formal Christmas party we have every year.
Mm-hmm.
I bought a tux from you 5 years ago. I probably wore it 20 times.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, think about renting a tux 20 times.
Yeah.
I mean, I could have bought 3 tuxes.
That's $4,000.
Yeah.
Probably.
So, I mean, sometimes it's better just to make the investment, spend the money. Tell everybody listening how they can contact you, your website. What's the best way to get a hold of you?
Well, on our website, it's jtvinson.com. That's J as in James, T as in Tom, VINSON.com. You can find our Instagram from there. Our Instagram is at jtvinsonClothing. And then also I have my own separate Instagram, Alan the Clothier. And we're really building that out as the voice of the vocation of custom clothing as a possible vocation for today's young people. So that's kind of where I'm, coming from on that Instagram account, is what Clothier life is all about. What it's like, you guys, man, all 3 of us, we get to live life on our own terms, and that cannot be overstated how important that is, and how that just really aligns with the human spirit of just cutting your own path, doing your own thing, living life on your own terms, and getting to enjoy more of the benefit of your own hard work. So I'm a huge fan of entrepreneurship. I'm a huge fan of both of you guys. And I mean, I've watched you go from, buying the intro fabrics, to buying the really nice stuff, and, and just look forward to continuing our relationship. It's, I get a lot out of it, and I always enjoy coming up to see you guys. So thanks for having me on the show.
Great. We appreciate you coming on. And as always, remember to like and subscribe, share the love. If you got any value out of this today, and I'm sure you have, be sure that you're subscribing, on our YouTube video platform, the Agents Resource Group, as well as the podcast platform of your choice. And we'll let Alan wrap it up with what he always ends everything with, everything that I see him post and write, and that is,
dress well, my friend.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.